The National Planning Commission has called for the declaration of an energy emergency over the ongoing blackouts in the country. Eskom, as you know, introducing stage 6 load shedding last week, and we've been at various stages on a daily basis as the utility battles to keep up with demand. Let's bring in Professor Mark Swilling, who is a commissioner with the National Planning Commission. Prof, it's great to talk to you once again on the program. I think we're going to have a lot more discussions with you in the coming weeks as well. The declaration of an energy emergency, I think many people around the country will agree, in fact, that decision should have been made a long time ago.
Yes, no one's going to doubt that we are in a very, very serious crisis, and there isn't an immediate end in sight. So what the National Planning Commission has done is noted the statement that the President is going to be taking the lead in responding to the crisis, and then the question is, what additional powers does he need in order to make the necessary interventions to overcome the red tape that is blocking rapid rollout of new generation capacity?
I saw that line in the statement from the NPC, that it welcomes the statement that the President is leading the response to the energy crisis. I mean, is this a political statement that the President is leading this response, Professor Swilling? Is there not someone with more expertise in the field who should be doing just that?
Well, I mean, you can't really separate our energy crisis from the political crisis in the sense that we need to make sure that there is political leadership that provides a unified front for government that in turn unifies the whole of society around this common shared goal of ending load shedding in 24 months. It needs to become just like an overriding national priority goal. Otherwise, we're really not going to be able to achieve the outcomes that we're looking for. So, yes, you need leadership from the President, but you also need a technical team that is going to do the work. And that's why we commend the work of Operation Vulindlela, who are doing a lot of really good work to coordinate implementation and action.
It's ironic that you talk about this issue of political leadership, and perhaps this is outside of your sphere of what you're able to talk about this morning. But the President leading the charge insofar as addressing the load shedding crisis in our country is concerned, and yet he's not said a thing so far about the current bout of load shedding.
Well, he has actually. He has said quite often that this is a real crisis. He also said after the NEC meeting, we have to take responsibility as government and take the necessary steps that need to be taken. So I think he has made it clear that we need to address this. But the problem is this is an extremely complex system with multiple players, multiple decision-making points. And yes, it's perfectly designed for a normal situation, but we're not in a normal situation. Let's end load shedding and then get back into a normal trajectory. Then all the rules and frameworks and checks and balances that we have in place can come into play. But for now, we need the same kind of intervention that we had at the start of the pandemic to be able to respond as a nation.
Yeah. And Prof, for those of us who we don't have experience in the field, in the various fields concerned, insofar as addressing the load shedding schedule is concerned, and I think that would apply to very many people who are watching this interview this morning. What does that mean for us to rally around the issue of load shedding as a country? Because ordinary South Africans who are experiencing 3 bouts of load shedding in a day, outside of sorting out their own alternatives to Eskom or City Power or whatever it might be, what are they expected to do?
Yeah. Well, as a National Planning Commission, we're going to do our job. We're going to focus on the medium to long term and encourage those actors that need to act within government, within Eskom, to do their bit. But as you say, citizens, businesses, all have to do their own bit. So immediately, households and businesses can get backup systems. The next step would be to get renewable energy put onto their rooftops. There's now a more friendly framework for that. Well, if you work out the cost, it actually does work out over a 3 to 5 year period, works out in your favor. If you have a solar hot water heater, you basically eliminate the electricity that you use to heat up your water, which can be up to 50% of your bill, and you will pay that off in 2 years.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
Prof.
it actually is affordable, but especially affordable for businesses, for the rooftops of shopping malls, for big factories, for mines. They've done the numbers, and they want to let rip. They want it to happen, but they come up against some of the red tape. A country like Vietnam did 9 gigawatts in a year, and they're not that different from us. We can also do it.
Yeah, I hear you insofar as the economics of investing in alternatives in terms of renewables as households. It makes sense because, as you say, over a 2 to 5 year period, the numbers do add up. But obviously, in a context of rising inflation and interest rate hikes that are expected as well, not very many households have that kind of money available. But anyway, Prof, I want to talk to you more about the issue of red tape, because that's a big issue insofar as getting renewables online, right? We've spoken to people in the sector here on the channel who say that they can bring a fair amount of power online in a 2 to 4 year period. But again, it's the issue of red tape. Why are we not doing more to just lift that red tape, get as much energy into the grid as we can?
Well, again, the National Planning Commission has acknowledged, based on its own previous work, but also in the statement, that there has been movement in that direction. For example, the lifting of the limit of the ceiling on renewables from 1 megawatt to 100 megawatts.
Yeah.
But we're saying that even that ceiling is not really necessary. It could be eliminated entirely because you already have Eskom that has a grid code that makes decisions on who can and who can't connect in accordance with the capacity of the grid. So that's an example. We don't need NERSA to have a registration procedure which slows things down when there is already one. So that's the kind of thing that if you just get rid of that bureaucratic procedure, it will just make a lot of things much easier, and decisions will be able to flow and money will be able to flow into those kinds of installations. Similarly, with what Eskom wants to do in repowering its old power stations like at Komati, there's a lot more that Eskom could do a lot faster in putting in place the 1,800 megawatts that it would like to install on its various properties in the Mpumalanga area. That's another example. Another example would be some of the renewable energy power stations generate more power than they're allowed to put onto the grid. So there's windmills spinning there making electricity which is not going onto the grid. You could eliminate that. So those are just examples.
And how do we do that? How do we get rid of that red tape? Like, what's stopping us from today, as you and I are speaking, saying, from today, NERSA doesn't have to have that regulation. Eskom already has it in place. Let's go.
Yes, well, again, there are rules in place which will take time to undo if we go through the normal regulatory and legislative process. So some kind of energy emergency would then provide, like during the pandemic, the president to make some of those key decisions so that we can, in a sense, be exempted from some of those for a limited period of time so that we can actually just get load shedding ended.
Yeah. So declaring a national state of disaster in as far as energy is concerned, making those things happen as soon as we can and getting additional power into the grid. It seems pretty simple. Professor Mark Swilling, let me thank you for your time this morning. Commissioner with the National Planning Commission, the NPC, calling on the President to declare an energy emergency insofar as the load shedding crisis in the country is concerned.